Hi Kumbaya Corner, it is your host Ife Ivana. What are we doing today? I love how I started this video on like a really like haha hee hee hi guys notes, but then we're talking about something that's kind of like sit down and think type of video. I read the Belger a couple of years ago, not recently. I'm just gonna bring my mic to my hands. Yeah, so I read the Belger a couple of years ago, and I don't think I've been the same person ever since I found out, myself and the author slash protagonist of the Belger are going through the same problems in life. But then nothing is new under the sun, so listen to this. I saw my life branching out before me like the fig tree in the story. From the tip of every branch, like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of the fig tree, starving to death because I couldn't make up my mind on which to choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one meant losing the rest. And as I sat there unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle. A moment of silence because that was really heavy, I think. Just let's sit with that for like 2 seconds. This is an extract from The Belger by Sylvia Plath. It follows the story of Esther Greenwood, a talented, high achieving college student who she wins a summer internship which she really wanted at a New York fashion magazine, and on paper her life starts to look like a success story. I mean, it does sound like a success story, but she feels incredibly hollow, disconnected, and unable to find meaning in the path laid out for her. If I start with Sylvia Plath and I told her about my life right now, I think the story would still be the same. Because, well, I don't have the coveted summer internship at a New York fashion magazine, but then I would want that. It's more like you're doing well right now, and you know you're doing well right now, but then the thought that it could be better, or you could have this, or you could be doing this other thing, or like, it just starts to like paralyze you. The amount of things that you could be, different career opportunities that you feel like you're not exploring, or you're just feeling like, oh well, I'm just feeling like, oh my god, I'm just too comfortable here and I'm not working hard enough. Yeah, so you're actually not alone. Somebody else felt that before you eons ago, and this is how they dealt with it. The Belger is a classic by Sylvia Plath. If you're not familiar, go do your homework. Okay, let's end the literary crisis today. But no, the Belger 1963 follows Esther. I've already said the story. It's a symbolic imagery that Sylvia Plath uses to describe what depression looks like for an overachiever. Overachievers come to the front. I'm already in front. Guys, it's so brutal out here. Existing in the world without external academic validation is very painful. It's very annoying. Like, what do you mean I'm just going to get through this day without somebody giving me 10 over 10 and a smiley face telling me I did well, and then eventually becoming the teacher's pet? What do you mean? What do you mean that's how I'm supposed to go through adulthood? That's painful, and that's not an easy thing to deal with. Being the talented, gifted child. If you were ever labeled the talented or gifted child when you were younger, I am so sure you're feeling 100% lost right now. And yes, I am. This is low-key a cry for help. Anyway, Esther Greenwood was the same. Overachieving female, limited societal pressures at the time, because it was like, yeah, women shouldn't have that many rights. That was the vibe of 1963 in New York. Anyways, yeah. But knowing and just you're capable of so much more, but then it just feels like everything you want is like a grain of sand and it's just dropping right in front of you. so much. There's so many things we could use as a symbolism for what this feeling is. The bell jar itself, if you know what it's like, let's imagine there's like a round plate type of thing, and there's like a jar. It's an airless space, and then Esther feels like she's beneath the jar itself, and she's at the mercy of whether it drops or hangs above her. But she can't seem to escape, because where would she escape to? She's paralyzed at the amount of like the decisions of, oh, I could go here, or I could go there, or I could do this, or I could do that. So the existence of that many possibilities just causes her to choose nothing, and in choosing nothing, she's not only losing everything, but she's also losing herself. And it's like, gasp, you know. While the fig tree analogy is kind of being highlighted in the book, she is actually on a date with some guy that she found attractive, and she wanted to get in his pants. She's on a date, and it's like she just kind of zones out, and then she now sees herself under this fig tree, and then each fig on the tree is representing a different life that she could have lived. One fig is a husband, a happy home, and children. So, you know, the typical life that women are kind of shoved into. There's the one other fig is a famous poet, another one is a brilliant professor, an amazing editor, you know, someone who's just like adventurous, traveling Europe, Africa, South America, Olympic champion. Although the book doesn't really mention her having any athletic skills that I can remember. I could be wrong, I don't know. But that's there. And then another branch is just, you know, the different lovers that she has had, and just different lives that she could have lived. Guys, Sylvia Plath, Esther Greenwood would have been a version of me. Like, genuinely, the book is really, really much about her depression, and, you know, her descent into depression, how depression kind of consumed her. But it goes into like the kind of descent into depression. It was like a slow, quiet, and suffocating sinking into water. In an article I wrote on my Medium account, I can't remember the name, I've written that many. But no, I was talking about how sometimes I just feel like I'm sinking in shallow water. And it's kind of ironic, because if the water is shallow, then you're not sinking, you just need to get up. But then it's like I'm kind of choosing to stay there, because the comfort slash discomfort of knowing that I'm sinking slash not sinking is better than the possibility of me getting up from the water and then not knowing what to do next. But then in not doing anything, like in staying in the sinking water, I also haven't done anything. So it's like, it's such a paralyzing situation, which is also where Esther found herself. Instead of choosing, she just kind of lets everything shrivel up and die, you know, because the fear of making the wrong choice paralyzes her, and then the fear of making one choice and then losing every other thing equally paralyzes her. The pressure to choose right, and then the fear that, oh my god, I'm going to lose every other thing. You know, like if she chose the life of wife, mother, you know, having children, that's a whole journey on its own. And then, you know, that life kind of does limit you in a way from doing other things. So I guess, you know, it's like, oh, what am I gonna do? But she chose nothing. And the guilt of just watching everything go away, you're stuck in indecision. But what really, really connected me to Esther wasn't just the feeling of lostness, the overachieving. It wasn't just this many things. It was like the dark humor that she found in her own suffering. One time she was sitting in a warm bath, and she was contemplating slitting her wrist, and she hesitated, and it's like, I'm going to read this verbatim. The skin of my wrist looked so white and defenseless that I couldn't. This was her reason for not cleaning herself. She just couldn't bring herself to slit her wrist because she just looked so helpless. I did laugh a little when I read that, Not because it was funny, because it was just so raw. It was just so true. Like, there's something darkly comforting about someone voicing these exact thoughts, the ones that you've had and never dared to say out loud. There's another instance in the book where she tries to kill herself by putting her head in her oven. I'm like, Esther, you funny girl. She does end up killing herself though, which is not really funny, but then it's like, but she didn't kill herself by putting her head in the oven. That was just one of the options, which was hilarious to me. But no, very, very far from the point. My fig tree, you a successful, I'm putting air quotes because we don't really know, because I didn't go down that path, but then it's like whatever I put my hands to will prosper. So it's like a successful career in law that I abandoned because I didn't complete my degree, the early marriage and starting a family and just becoming a trad wife slash stay at home mom slash maybe content creator. 3, devoting my life to singlehood and traveling, becoming a magazine editor, being a nurse, because I eventually, on leaving my law degree, I found myself in healthcare, and then I just started to make it work. So now the another fig tree kind of just engulfs, which was, being a nurse or being some kind of medical practitioner or devoting my life to being a student. Life hack. Well, not really a life hack. I'm going to pause. Life hack is like, if you're ever feeling lost in life, I don't know what to do, just continue going to school, get that master's, get the PhD, get whatever is after that, because I don't really know what people be doing after PhDs, but like being a lifetime student is always an option. Very expensive one, but it's like and then there's also the option to return to my country, because obviously I am an immigrant in the UK. This is actually not my home, so I could go home and start something equally. That's another fig tree. In just like the era where Esther found herself in 1963 with so much limitations, I feel like there are limitations around me. They might not necessarily be limiting me in the way that I think. Then again, you know how they say, yeah, your biggest enemy is yourself, blah 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 blah, whatever, bro. It's still a limitation. I feel held back by policies that are saying, okay, yeah, so you can actually do that, because it's like, just because you can't afford it financially doesn't mean you can never do it again in your life. But then it's like, oh, for me to now actually get that, I need to be not an immigrant. And unfortunately, we can't change the fact that I am not from this country. So that I feel in itself is a huge limitation for me. Obviously, the financial factor. And I'm also an overachiever, so I fear nothing will ever even be enough for me. I feel so paralyzed by all the things that I could be, and just like Esther, I'm watching it all wither away, crippled by indecision, wanting to have it all. And it's like, can I really have it all? Can you really have it all? Like, if anybody knows the answer to this question, please tell me, because I need to know. I need to know. Actually, we all need to know. Share it with the class. It just starts to feel like a wild goose chase, because what am I actually pursuing? On thinking, I feel like what I'm looking for is validation that I had growing up, and doing, achieving and getting this and being good in this subject and being good in that subject always gave me that validation, that pat on the head, which I'm now lacking in adulthood. And because I don't have that little, oh, you're doing amazing, sweetie, because I don't have that little at every step, I don't necessarily know what I'm doing, or if it's right, or I want it to be right. I want someone to look at it and look at what I'm doing and be like, yeah, you're doing it right. And it's not to say I'm not receiving that encouragement from my friends and my family, but then it's always different. Anybody who was the teacher's pet back then would kind of relate to this feeling. Also, the extremist idea that saying yes to one thing is death of another, but IRL, that is not the case. You can still actively pursue what you want, knowing that you tried, and it may not even be what you might not end up loving it, but knowing that, yeah, I dabbled into this a little bit and I loved it. that is truly living, because life is actually in the detours. And that's kind of what I took away from reading The Bell Jar. It was just more kind of the feeling that, the whole fig tree analogy, the decision paralysis and everything is not a new feeling. So I did find comfort in knowing that I'm not the only one feeling this way. I'm not the only one who has felt this way, because if I'm feeling this way in 2026, Esther Greenwood / Sylvia Plath, because unpopular opinion, I think the book is actually about her. But I just tend to go down this rabbit hole with books that I read, trying to connect them to the authors, but I digress. What did I just say? I don't remember. Yeah, so life, facing your path, and life begins in the detours, in the little adventures, in the, those little slip ups where, oh, this is the path that I had, and then you've kind of diverted, but then you're doing something else, and in that you found something else that you like. It's just in finding yourself over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. The grass is greener where you water it, and not just on the other side. And choosing a life path or career is not and doesn't have to be linear, and it's not a do or die affair. I think it's really, really important as well to trust yourself, because you may have made this decision that, well, not completing my law degree wasn't necessarily that a decision that I made. It was one that just kind of happened. And every day I'm just like, I wake up almost every morning thinking about how much of a failure I am, because I couldn't just complete that one thing, totally ignoring how far I've come from that. And it's just very, very unfair to my own self for me to just look at that and be like, that is a life that I have lost and I will never gain. And I can't help but thinking, oh, had I finished that, or had I continued that, would I have been more successful? Would I have had more money by now? What would I be doing now? And that little uncertainty makes me uncomfortable, because I'm now feeling the gaps of what could have been. And it's like all these things are all in yesterday, so it makes no sense actually thinking about how I would have filled in that gap when there's still so much or so little. But I don't know how much of my life is left, or how long I'm going to live, or what's left. But it's like, what I have is the present, what I have is now. And I actually don't regret the decision that I had to make in, leaving school and then starting this whole career in healthcare, because it wasn't just starting a career in healthcare. Before I got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm starting a career here, there was still that little bridge of uncertainty going on. And even till this day, I still don't really know what I'm doing. And I don't think anybody really, really knows what exactly it is that they are doing, but then they are still doing. And I think that's the most important thing to take away, is that you should never stop doing. Like, keep on going to the next thing. You see the fig tree, whatever is on your own fig tree that you're just watching drop or wither away, try to reach for it. And what you might even find it funny that, like, once you've reached for it and it's in your grasp and it's now that, close to you, are like, I don't really enjoy doing this, I'm gonna try something else. Because now I'm more concerned in finding myself in the things that I love doing. I'm going to go to work and obviously have a means to, like, make money and build a career for myself in society. But then internally, I want to grow as well. I want to see myself work hard for things that I want. For example, my craft, my channel, my podcast. Just me being a creative is something that is a fig tree that I don't want to watch wither away. So this is another fig tree that I'm reaching for. And who knows, maybe I'm going to get that magazine editor thing that I want, or like a channel, or like I don't even know, a network. Who knows? But I'm not going to find out if I just sit back under the fig tree and watch it all wither away. So yeah, these are my notes and my takeaways from The Bell Jar. Also, it's not a book that I would necessarily recommend. If you are looking for a book to read, I can do a book recommendation video another time. But this was just about the bell jar because I told myself I was going to talk about this. I did write about it on my Medium, and I will put the article down in the description. But this, don't take this as a book recommendation. This is just insights on my insights on the bell jar.
Rafiki and Zoe.
Alexa is asking me to go to bed. But yeah, this is the end of this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys next time. Kumbaya Kone. Love you. Bye.